Hey guys, it's me Tilly, and I'm finally back with more Vindictus video. I'm sorry for the long break. Today I want to talk about something that caused quite some outrage in the Vindictus community, and that is of course the fatigue system. Just as a disclaimer, this video is meant to be an informative guide on what fatigue is, how to deal with it, how to use it to your advantage, how to work around it. It's not meant to praise it, to like defend the system in any way whatsoever, and there will be no subjective point of view how I feel about it, because let's be honest, we'd be better without it. It's not something you need to quit over, but that's all I'm gonna say about it. If you actually need my opinion about it, feel free to join the Discord, link in the description, ask me about it on stream. Maybe I'll answer some comments if there are comments about it, but usually this one is strictly objective. So for everybody that's still unaware of what fatigue actually is, think about it as like an energy system. If you ever played a mobile game, or if you never played any mobile game ever, then think about it as a resource that you have to pay whenever you want to do a raid or a dungeon in the game. While lower level dungeons and raids consume less fatigue, currently the average for Season 3, which is the latest season in Vindictus as of right now of me making this video, the average is 10 per raid or dungeon. And that fatigue and all of it gets consumed whenever you enter the raid. It's not something that gets consumed after, like your departure licenses. You can enter a raid using a license, and it only gets consumed if you actually successfully clear the raid. Fatigue actually gets consumed upon entering. So it's very punishing if you, I don't know, tried soloing Redeemers 10 times a day, for example. And the downside to fatigue, obviously, is once you are out of fatigue, once you don't have any fatigue left, you will not get loot, EXP, or AP from the activity you are doing. You are still free to join any activity that you want without having fatigue, but beware, you will not get any kinds of rewards. That obviously sucks in most circumstances, but I'll talk about some ways of actually using that later on in the video, so stay tuned. So now that we know what fatigue kind of is, let me actually tell you how you get fatigue. For the sake of an easy explanation, let's pretend you ran out of fatigue completely during a day. As I said, it's a resource that you use whenever you do a dungeon or a raid. And let's pretend you've been playing a lot for one day. You are completely out. You have no fatigue left, 0. You won't get any loot. Unlike in mobile games that I mentioned earlier, fatigue does not regenerate continuously. You can't simply wait for like 5 to 10 minutes and then go again, but it only resets on a daily. Once a day, whenever the daily reset happens for the departures, that's also when your fatigue restores. And when it happens, you will recharge all of your normal fatigue. And yes, there's also 2 different kinds of fatigue, normal and bonus fatigue. But bear with me, it's not that complicated. As normal fatigue, we usually refer to as the first 100 fatigue. So 0 until 100 is normal. And anything that's above 100 up to 300, it's bonus. And 300 is the hard cap. You can't ever go higher than 300. And whenever the daily reset happens, you will not only be put to 100 fatigue, you will also be given 20% of the unused fatigue from the previous day. That's how you're able to get higher than 100. Let me make it like a bit more obvious, giving you some examples. As I said earlier, for an easy explanation, we pretend we have 0 fatigue left on day 1. We log off and we come back day 2, where we are recharged to 100, because that will always happen. And after that, we'll get 20% of whatever was left, which is 0. And obviously, any percent of 0 is still 0. So we'll get 100 normal fatigue, and our bonus fatigue is 0. So we will end up on 100 fatigue. On the second example, let's pretend day 1, you have 50 fatigue left. And day 2, you will log in, obviously being reset to 100. But now the 20% of 50 is actually 10. So you will not only be having 10, but rather 110 fatigue once you log into the game again. What we can see here right now is obviously on the first day, on the first example rather, you got rid of all of your fatigue. And on the second day, you got 100 fatigue again. And on the second example, you had 50 fatigue left on the first day, which was practically unused. And you only got 110 fatigue the next day. So the difference is that on the first day, you actually consumed 50 fatigue more. Whereas on the second example, you got 10 fatigue more the other day or the next day, which makes it 40 fatigue that you technically wasted and lost. So as the TLDR for those examples, it is always worth it to go down to 0 fatigue whenever you can. Obviously, don't feel forced to always run out of fatigue, but let's say you have some fatigue left, 30, 40, 50, and you still want to play some, but maybe you don't want to go for another raid train. Just try getting in some material grinding, Request by Sea, chunk dailies, any season 2 raids for element stones, stuff like that. It's more worth it to do like these smaller activities rather than completely wasting fatigue, because you will lose fatigue if you don't use it. And this stacking I talked about, like the bonus fatigue you acquire by not consuming fatigue the first day. As I said earlier, it stacks up until you are at 300. For example, I haven't logged in on my Arisha in a week before today's stream, and I came back to 200 fatigue, right? Once you are above 100 fatigue that you did not use, you will get 20%. You will also only get 20% of the normal fatigue. So the most fatigue you can restore per day is 20. If you have 100 fatigue left, you'll log back to 120. If you have 200 fatigue left, you will log back to 220. You will only ever be recharging 20% per day on bonus. But if you don't play for like a week or 2, you will actually come back to 300 AP fatigue, which is kind of cool if you play like multiple characters, for example. You can focus on one character for like some days, and then you look back to the other character that you haven't used in 3 days, and you'll actually have way more fatigue to be used. But there are actually 2 more ways of regaining fatigue. It's not only via daily reset. The first one is actually the guild house, where there are beds you can sleep in to recharge 30 fatigue every 24 hours. And yes, it is every 24 hours and not on a daily reset. So if you go to bed at 8 p.m. the first day, you will only be able to use your guild bed the next day, 8 p.m. again. You don't have to remember when you went to bed, because if you try going to bed while the timer is still not up yet, it will actually tell you how long you'll have to wait. But I can't stress it enough. New players, please, just get a guild. Any with a guild house will do. Just don't create your own ones and be like, I got a guild. Actually, if you start the game again from scratch or as a returner, please do me the favor and get a guild. They're so important nowadays. They really are. And the last method to actually regain fatigue are fatigue potions. They're given out rather frequently during events, which is pretty cool because it actually helps you to do stuff in the game, because the base fatigue is kind of meh, but at least they are running decent events, and they actually mentioned that they will always have at least one event which is dedicated to fatigue potions, so people are actually able to play the game. And other than events, you can get them from the Seals of Dedication shop, so those seals are actually finally good for something. For anybody being interested in the Alban Festival, I also got good news for you, because the fruit boxes that you can buy with the festival seals, they can actually also drop those fatigue potions. So if you're a fan of Alban Festival, it doesn't even consume fatigue to enter, so feel free doing that for the fun, for the seals, for the potions. And yeah, talking about potions, by the way, there are also 2 different kinds of potions right there. Ooh. 5 a.m. in the morning, time for my pizza, I guess. 2 different kinds of potions. One, which will only restore fatigue up until 100. And another potion that will always recharge your fatigue. So definitely be careful when you use the potion that it can only recharge up until 100. I should also mention, by the way, that you don't need the full fatigue to actually get rewards during a raid. So if a raid, for example, consumes 5 fatigue, you do not have to be at 5 fatigue. You can only have like 0.1 fatigue left, and you will still get the rewards. This was tested on stream like 2 weeks ago. I don't think they fixed it since then. But as long as you have any fatigue to be consumed, it doesn't have to be the full amount that it actually usually costs, you will still get rewards. And that's actually kind of a way to cheese the system. And Nexon, don't ban me for that. But what you could be doing, if you are sitting at 0 fatigue, you could use a potion to recharge 10 fatigue. Then you do a regular raid, which consumes 5 fatigue. So you have 5 fatigue left. And then you go do Abyssal Arena, which costs 8. And you consume 8, although you only have 5 left, right? There's no negative fatigue. So you're technically cheesing free fatigue, right? You could basically, in theory, get some free fatigue like this, but it's like a min-maxing for everybody that's like really trying to maximize the system. So there you go. There are also 2 big game changers for the fatigue system, and these are VIP and VVIP, each coming with big benefits. Let's start with VIP, because it's the more basic version. Using it will just simply cut your fatigue cost in half, right? As I said earlier, the current average for Season 3 stuff is 10. And that's before VIP. I think just a minute ago I talked about how raids consume 5, right? That is actually with VIP. And Abyssal Arena consuming 8, that is with VIP, because usually it's 16. So that's pretty easy to understand, right? And on top of that, VVIP does give you free fatigue potions per hour that you are logged into the game. But they only stack up to 3. So you have to use them before the next hour passes, so you actually recharge them. So you can't simply AFK farm them for like a day, which would be busted, by the way. It's still a pretty significant chunk of fatigue. Let's just pretend you play for, I don't know, 3 hours, right? That is 90 fatigue for you. That's almost as much as you recharge on a daily. So that's almost twice the amount of fatigue that you get. If I had to rate how important VIP and VVIP are, if you are somebody that actually spends a crap load of time in the game, let's talk about 6 hours a day, daily grinding, only playing one character, trying to get everything done in the game that there is, VVIP is really good for you. If you're just somebody that likes to play different characters from time to time and you switch between them, and it doesn't really matter how much you're able to play on one character, maybe you just do raids like I do when I stream, right? I'm only doing some raids. 100 fatigue is more than enough for my character on regular days. You don't need VVIP at all. Getting VIP, like the basic version, will be easily enough for you. If you don't even get VIP, then you might run into problems, because cutting your fatigue in half doubles the amount of stuff you can do, right? That's how math works. So if you can get your hands on VIP, highly advised, because there's not only the fatigue benefits, right? There's also the bonus departure, the bonus loot, yada yada. VIP, very great. VVIP, obviously stronger, but you don't necessarily need it. It's not a necessity to play the game. In the end, let me also talk about some really neat ways of using the fatigue and stuff you might need to know about or might want to know about. There are actually 2 buffs that you have to keep in mind that were added with the fatigue system. The first one is just a 50% EXP boost on dungeon completions. It's sadly only dungeon completions, because quest EXP would be busted. But while you are higher than 100 fatigue, you will get 50% more EXP. So if you level an alt, you might just want to stop when he's like dropping underneath 100 fatigue, let him rest for like a few days, come back when he's back to 300 fatigue, right? And then do more dungeons on him. Or if, I don't know, you're new, you get your hands on VVIP for some reason, keep using those VVIP potions to stay over 100 fatigue. And the second buff is actually the extreme opposite of it. It's while you are below 40 fatigue, you will get free attack speed. And also some bonus EXP. So if you don't have VVIP to make use of, as a new player, if you want to level as fast as possible, try to stay below 40. Obviously, you will log into at least 100 fatigue. Try getting rid of it. And once you are below 40, keep popping potions that you get from events while you are below 40 to get at least some bonus EXP. But for me, for example, I do it on my Arisha. When I want to raid, I usually log into the game, I do Muir, Rockets by Sea, I do some chunk grindings, I do some fast battles to get underneath the 40 fatigue as soon as possible, to gain 3 more, it's only 3 more attack speed, I'm only playing Soul Arisha, but it's 3 stats that's increasing your damage in your farming rates, which is cool. Like, I kind of like abusing it like that. More damage is more damage, right? We take those. Next important piece is that Royal Army raids is the only place in the endgame, apart from fishing and Alban Festival, that does not consume any fatigue. So please, please, did I say please already? If you are new and you're not already doing it, start doing as many Royal Army raids as possible. You get literally everything that you need from Royal Army raids. Seals of Bravery, AP, money, materials. And it doesn't even consume fatigue. It's literally OP. Yeah, you really want to make use of Royal Army raids. And my last advice is mostly for new players, since it's about Einlacker, the challenge mode you have to do in order to get some free stats. Since it also consumes fatigue, I would highly suggest that you only ever do Einlacker as your last thing of the day. You don't ever need any drops from Einlacker. You will still get your badge if you complete it without fatigue, but I know when I was doing Einlacker, I had to retry a bunch of times. And if you retry like 10 times, which can surely happen within like 10 minutes, easily, you will drain your fatigue. Just like that, in 10 minutes. And then you're stuck the entire rest of the day without being able to do anything. Either do it once you run out of fatigue and you want to keep playing and you want to keep progressing, or do it whenever you've done your stuff and you know after Einlacker you won't be doing any more. So be smart about it. Einlacker is still very important for you as a new player to get your free stats, but don't ruin your own fatigue doing it early on. Wait for it until the end of the day. But yeah, that's basically it. I think I covered the most important things that I can think of right now. If there's anything I forgot about, feel free to definitely post them in the comments so people can see them, so people are aware that there's more that I might have forgotten. And thank you so much for watching the video, for liking it, because you'll do so, right? And check out my stream. Link is in the description. Check out my Discord, friendly people around to chat all the time. And also in the description. And see you on the next one, which will probably be soon. and not again in 2 months. I promise. See you around. Bye, guys.